had this conversation with a friend the other day. I mentioned that there was a Barro's Pizza opening up near the office. And they're a chain that's been in Arizona since 1980. They've been here as long as I've been in Phoenix. And I ate there once, years ago. That should tell you something. Me, a pizza place once. Now, to be fair, there aren't too many around me. But the one that I had, I was super unimpressed. And it's been so long that I'm not 100% sure, but my recollection was that it was just a pizza so greasy even I couldn't eat it. And that's saying a lot. Anyway, I came down here for lunch to Jersey Mike's, and the new Barro's happens to be right next to it, and so I thought, what the heck? I'll have a pizza. And I'll tell you something, I'm not going to post this on the Pizza Locust because I'd want to be really, really tight on this. That's awful pizza. It wasn't greasy, and it's well puffy. I mean, I must have had a quarter of an inch of cheese on it. It was disgustingly thick with cheese. Pepperoni is ratty. All right, it's just bad. It's bad pepperoni. I'm not saying it's made of rat. Doesn't taste. I mean, I had a 10-inch pizza. I could only eat half of it, and I was seriously thinking of leaving the other half on the table. I was planning on leaving it on the table and was not even bothered to take it home. Not that I would eat it. I would see if somebody else in the family would want it. And as it happened, when I got a refill to my drink, they happened to be somebody standing right there who could hand me a box. So I thought, what the heck, I'll take it. But yeah, no, bad. One of the few places that I can honestly say I would not go back, and I would never suggest that to anyone. And it's just not good. I don't know how it's so popular that it stayed in business as long. That's not good. Not good at all. It's a 3-day weekend, and the weird thing is, I'm really looking forward to it. Figuring that in a week and a half, all my weekends will be 7 days long. You'd think I wouldn't be like, woohoo, 3-day weekend, but no. Tell you that there is an attitude that you take, and I'm not immune to it. That at work, a lot of times I look at the problems, and I'm still working towards the goals that we have for my employer, because that's my job and they're paying me to do that. But it's really difficult because a lot of my job involves, planning, laying things out, and going over how we're going to accomplish it. And a lot of times I find myself, I think we should do it this way, and then I'll correct myself and I'll say, well, I think you should do it that way. I don't give a shit. I do, but I don't. I want them to get the job done. I want the job to get done, and I want them to succeed. But at the same time, you make your plans based on what's going to work for you, and it doesn't have to work for me. So that's a little bit of a thing I have to work through. But anyway, 3-day weekend. I'm going to tell you one more story from the whole employment files. Well, who knows? At some point I may tell you more, but for now, as we close out this chapter about the past chapters, I told you last time that I had left the insurance company. What I did not tell you was how that transpired. Now, I did mention that I had been a very long hours employee. I worked 16 hours a day for 6-7 days a week for at least the first couple of years that I'd been there. And the last year that I was there, I worked probably more like 10 hours a day. And only 5 and occasionally on the 6th day. Now, mind you, I was on salary, and I was getting the work done, and it was a question of there wasn't as much to do, there wasn't as much heavy programming to do, the work wasn't there, and I had other things to do, so it was a combination of the two. I was certainly, absolutely giving my employer their money's worth. And I had a good relationship with my manager, who was one of the owning partners of the company. And when I went in to turn in my notice, which I gave them the full 2-week notice, his response was, "Well, I've been expecting this for a while. You've been checked out of here and not engaged for quite a bit," which I thought was totally unfair, totally untrue, and it pissed me off. I held it down, but it pissed me off and it hurt me, because it just simply wasn't true. And looking back on it, when somebody quits, because I've had this happen, I wasn't supervising people. Well, actually, that's not true. I did supervise a couple people, interns, when I was there. But they were interns. They were working there for the summer. You knew they were going to leave. Subsequently, I've supervised several people in my current role, and I admit it. If you don't see it coming and they turn in their notice, it does feel like an attack on you. Oh, I don't want to work for you anymore. And it's not fun. It's not pleasant. So, subsequently I get it. But at the time, it was petty of him. He shouldn't have said it. And it was hurtful. And it was human. All too human. Why do I tell you that story? Because when I went in to make my notice to my supervisor here, I had planned it all out. I knew what his calendar looked like. I knew he was supposed to be in the office. I knew he had a meeting at 9:30 in the morning or 10:30 in the morning, and that for something else. And then when that was over, I could get the time I needed to talk to him. And so all I had to do was to get through the day up until that meeting, which he wasn't at. And his calendar hadn't been changed, but it turned out that he had been called downtown for something. And he was out pretty much all day and did not get into the office until about 2 o'clock. So what had been, just through the morning and get through now was turned into this long, nail-biting kind of, will I get in today to see him? Because there were reasons I wanted to do it on that day. And it had to do with the fact that was the last day before the new director arrived. And it's not about the new director. I just didn't want to go through that chain of command. I wanted to go through what we had arranged, and that it wasn't, oh, I saw the new director and I left. It wasn't like that. So that was, and of course I was trying not to tell my staff until it's official, and so you're sitting around all day and they're asking you questions about, well, should we schedule a meeting for this, and should we schedule a meeting for that? And I'm kind of like, sure, let's do that. Anyway, I get in, it's 2 o'clock, he comes into the office. I happen to be walking past the stairwell when he comes in. He's carrying his food because he hasn't even had a chance for lunch for the day. And I know that between my leaving time and his meetings, there is only now. And so, he comes in, says hi, and I'm like, hey, can I get a couple minutes of your time? He said, sure, come on by. All right, let me go grab something. And of course I went and got the letter. And I went in and had to have a conversation with him in this kind of impromptu, and he's stuffing his face trying to get his food ready and get ready for this next meeting. And it was really bad. It was really bad timing, and I wouldn't have done it then if it hadn't been. was necessary. But he, I told him what it was, and his response was no, which and then yeah, he goes no. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's the time, and then he looked at me and he said, well, first, let me tell you, thank you for 28 years of fantastic service to this department. And, that couldn't have been more different from my last supervisor's resignation. I mean, night and day, and classy. Whether or not I've done a good job or not, it doesn't really matter. That was a classy way to do it, and it was the right way to do it, and I will remember that. And if I ever supervise anyone else again and have to preside over that, I will remember that and try to set that standard.
3-day weekend, and I've been sick for it. I can't afford to be sick any of my last time at work because I need to keep all my vacation hours or my sick leave hours for the payout at the end of the year. But I've come to look for is a bike share, and it's interesting that this one didn't show up on the radar. Let me show you. Well, we're over here in Scottsdale, although we're in the scummy part of Scottsdale. Some would argue all of Scottsdale is scummy. That's whether you have an opinion of rich people or not. This is the poor person part of town. Anyway, although we are at a golf course, so that might belie that a little bit. There are, at least for the last, month or so, I've been seeing them all over near my office. Just bikes. Just sitting wherever, and they're all rental bikes, and they're not locked up to anything. They're just sitting on a sidewalk somewhere, and there's a bunch of them over here by these apartments, way over there, and there's a bunch of them way over there on the other side of this little golf course. And I just showed you there was one outside the CVS. So apparently whereas Phoenix went with the idea of the grid bikes, which have docking stations and you take them from station to station and check them in, Scottsdale has gone with the free bike approach, where people just drop the bikes wherever they're done with them. And so they don't have to invest any tax money, because Scottsdale people are assholes. Although, it would be nice to just go along and find a bike somewhere. The problem with that is, let's say that I picked up a bike and I drove here to the CVS, and I stopped inside the CVS. I have to lock the bike. You lock the bike, it ends the ride, and then you go in, and then you come out and you want to go home, and somebody else has rented the bike in the interim. I'm gonna have to check into that and see if there's a system to beat that. But that seems like that would be a major failing of this system. That's true with the grid bikes as well. If you were stopping somewhere where there was a station and you left a bike and then there was no bike when you came back. Although I think those have a lock. I think those have a lock so that you can keep them locked up while you're not at a station. We'll have to check on that. Anyway, nothing interesting going on because I've been sick all weekend. But I thought I'd show you this since my office is not in Scottsdale, but apparently the bikes are making the rounds that far. and there's some over in Phoenix according to the maps. One interesting thing is that the Lime bike, sorry, the Oho bike, or Ofo, or whatever it is, the yellow bike, there was supposed to be one here, but there were two. And the Lime bike, there weren't any here, and yet there was. So I don't know how accurate the system is for finding a bike either. That's why I was kind of walking around. I was trying to see if the bike was where it said it was.